I transmigrated into the male supporting role of a tragic story. On the night of my birthday, my fiancé stayed at the hospital all night taking care of an intern. The next day, my fiancé promoted the intern to be the company's general manager. Then, she emptied my office and gave it to the intern. Julian, you don't come to the office often anyway. Santi's health is not good, and this office has the best lighting, so let him have it. I slapped her face hard. Rose, you're nothing but my canary that I'm taking care of. Who gave you the audacity? Security, throw these two bitches out of here. The female lead, Rose, covered her face, completely stunned. This plot is a bit off. Chapter 1. I had just crossed over. I was sitting in a spacious office, still a bit dazed. At that moment, the male intern, the protagonist, walked in with a smug expression. President Law, Rose said this office is now mine. If you know what's good for you, you should obediently get out of my way. I hadn't even processed what was going on when he grabbed the coffee from my desk and splashed it all over himself. He immediately screamed, President Law, I know you don't like me, but do you really have to humiliate me like this? The next second, my fiancée from the original story burst in. She hurriedly pulled the intern into her arms, glaring at me angrily. Julian, how long are you going to keep causing trouble? Didn't I stay at the hospital last night with Santi and miss your birthday? Santi is so kind. How can you treat him like this? I'm telling you, apologize to Santi right now. Otherwise, I'll never forgive you. That was when I finally remembered the plot of the original book. Turns out, I was the vicious male supporting role who humiliated the female protagonist with money. The woman in front of me, glaring at me in anger, was my fiancée, Rose. She was also a poor student funded by my family. She had been living with the Law family since high school. I had been utterly infatuated with her. Over the years, I had been faithfully chasing after her. As soon as Rose frowned, I would carefully try everything to make her happy. After we got married, under her manipulation, I transferred all my shares to her. Finally, when Rose stood at the top of power, she resented the fact that I had helped her when she was poor. Thinking it was a humiliation, she joined forces with the male protagonist to exact the harshest revenge on me. In the end, I couldn't bear the humiliation and jumped off a rooftop. The male and female protagonists went on to live happily ever after. I spent the whole night cursing the author in the book review section. Then, when I opened my eyes, I found myself in the story. Chapter 2. Looking at these two scoundrels, I was immediately filled with rage. Apologize. Apologize to your mother. I slapped Rose across the face. The slap was crisp and loud. It left Rose completely stunned. She covered her face, looking at me in disbelief. Julian, you dare hit me? Santiago, standing nearby, was also shocked, but soon, a glint of glee flashed in his eyes. He quickly stepped forward to help Rose up. President Law, how could you hit Rose? She's your fiancée. I slapped Rose again across the face, sneering. Fiancée, someone like Rose, a two-faced, backstabbing bitch, dares to be called that. Rose's eyes turned bloodshot, and she stared at me furiously. Julian, just because I didn't spend your birthday with you last night and stayed at the hospital with Santi, this is how you treat me? Care for him? I looked down at her. Santiago only had a slight cold. Did he really need you to stay at the hospital all night? He's only been in the company for 2 months, and you bought him a $3 million watch. Now you let him, an intern, become the general manager. You want to give him my president's office? Rose, is this how you care for him? Who the hell gave you the nerve? Rose's expression grew panicked. She let go of Santiago and hurriedly tried to explain. Julian, you know I came from the mountains. Santi has suffered a lot since he was young. Isn't it only right that we take care of him a little more? I believe he can handle the position of manager. Besides, you don't even come to the company often. This office has the best lighting. What's the harm in giving it to him? Damn. I was shocked by her shameless words. Rose, have you forgotten who gave you that vice president position? I stepped closer, and she instinctively took a step back. You only have this position because of the Law family support. Now you're trying to act like you're generous with my money. Santiago suddenly interrupted. President Law, Rose told me, if it weren't for your constant pursuit, how could she have agreed to marry you? How could she be managing your company? Rose has come this far all on her own ability. You don't appreciate her, and yet you're treating her like this. Chapter 3. I kicked him in the stomach. Santiago immediately dropped to his knees. He hunched over like a shrimp, his face contorted in pain. Shut up. I looked at him with utter disdain. Do you really think you have a say here? He gritted his teeth and looked up at me, his eyes full of defiance. President Law, if you want to hit someone, hit me, but don't make things difficult for Rose. I was definitely going to satisfy his request. I slapped him hard across the face, then I kicked him a few more times. I grabbed his hair and slammed his head against the wall. Bang, bang, bang. Just then, Rose pushed the door open. The office door wasn't closed. The noise immediately attracted the attention of the entire floor's staff, who came over to watch. Everyone was stunned. They stared wide-eyed in shock. They all knew that the original character was like a meek quail in front of Rose. Rose had been so close to the intern, and now she promoted him to general manager. They had all privately mocked me, the president, as a weakling. They had never seen such a violent side of me. Was this still the same law president they knew? Rose was gritting her teeth in fury and rushed over to try to pull me away. Enough, Julian. I'm really getting angry now. How dare you treat Santi like this? I'm telling you, you must kneel and apologize today, or I'll never forgive you. In the book, whenever Rose said she was angry, the original character immediately backed down. He would always try to appease her right away, but I wasn't the original weakling. I wouldn't indulge her. I slapped her, sending her crashing to the floor. Apologize to your mother. Rose, from now on, you and Santiago are suspended. Hand over the company seal and access cards, and get the hell out of my law group. Rose's eyes widened, filled with disbelief. Julian, are you crazy? I've worked so hard for the company. How dare you? Just because I'm the largest shareholder and president of law group, I decisively pressed the internal line. Security, please escort Rose and this intern out. Remember, these two scoundrels are never allowed to step foot into the law group building again. Understood, President Law. Seeing how ruthless I was, Rose was stunned. Even Santiago was dumbfounded. He couldn't understand why he got fired just for trying to slander me. Rose, it's over for us. The engagement is cancelled. Get out. The two of them stubbornly refused to leave. In the end, security had to forcibly drag them out. After they left, I immediately called the bank to cancel my supplementary card. I also sent a notice to my lawyer to prepare a lawsuit against Rose. I would reclaim all the gifts. The real drama was just beginning. Chapter 4. The two of them walked down the street in disgrace. Santiago was holding his red, swollen face. Tears were dripping down. Rose, it's all my fault. It's all my mistake. He suddenly reached out to grab Rose's hand and slapped his own face with it. Rose, hit me. If I had known this would happen, I should have just let President Law hit and scold me. I would have accepted it. Then you wouldn't have been kicked out with me, and our engagement wouldn't have been cancelled. Seeing him like this, Rose's heart shattered. She quickly tried to comfort him. Santi, you're so kind. How could it be your fault? It's all Julian Law's fault. He's the evil one. Don't worry, he's just jealous. He's really predictable. Do you believe me? Within a day, he'll kneel and apologize, begging for my forgiveness. Santi, don't worry. Since he agreed to make you the general manager of Law Group, that position will be yours. No one can take it away. Seeing Rose so confident, Santiago finally relaxed his worried heart. Chapter 5. Just when I was eating, the villa's main gate was suddenly unlocked from the outside. To my surprise, Rose dragged Santiago in, looking grim. These two bastards still haven't learned their lesson. They dare to come in front of me looking for trouble. Originally, Rose wanted to take Santiago out for some extravagant shopping. She planned to buy him some high-end clothes, but unexpectedly, the card I gave her had been deactivated. She called me more than 10 times, but no one answered. The upscale restaurant reservation she had made had to be cancelled as well. Now, seeing the table full of exquisite dishes, her anger instantly erupted. Julian, how dare you eat without me being back? And why are you eating so lavishly alone? The Law family may have money, but who are you showing off to by spending like this? Didn't I tell you to change your bad habits as a rich young master? Listen to this. What kind of harsh words are these from a female character? My hand started to tremble uncontrollably again. In the original story, Rose continuously manipulated and emotionally abused the original protagonist. The original protagonist's money had to be spent on her and the little pretty boy. Rose not only bought Santiago a $1 million watch. After marriage, she even bought him a luxury car worth tens of millions and a $1 billion mansion. If the original protagonist spent even a little more, it was considered lavish and wasteful. She was completely indifferent to the suffering of others. After they got married, Rose was afraid the original protagonist would waste money, so she forced him to transfer all his assets into her name. In the end, the original protagonist met a tragic fate. I smiled at her with a half-amused look. I don't know, but it's my own money. I can spend it however I want. What does that have to do with you? Or do you think, after being a parasite for so long, everything from the Law family now belongs to you? Those words deeply wounded her fragile self-esteem. Rose's face turned pale with fury. She clenched her fists tightly, her knuckles turning white. Julian Law, that's enough. If it weren't for you pestering me and forcing me to take your Law family's things, do you really think I'd care? Chapter 6. I slowly tasted a spoonful of golden caviar before speaking. Since you don't care, Then hurry up and return all the valuable items I gave you. I put down the spoon and coldly glanced at the butler. Butler, take all of Rose's things and make sure she doesn't take a single item with her. The butler's eyes immediately lit up. In the past, the young master's cowardly behavior meant that not even he, nor any of the maids, looked up to him. Rose had been bullying everyone in the Law family, acting arrogantly and never showing respect to the servants. Had the young master finally woken up? The butler was so moved he nearly shed a tear. Yes, young master. Rose finally panicked. She quickly tried to explain. Julian, I didn't mean it like this, but I ignored her. Calmly, I pulled out my phone and showed the compiled bill. Rose, your salary as vice president is exactly 3 million. The watch you bought for Santiago will be considered as your own salary. After deducting the items left in the Law family, you still owe me 6,500,000. Pay me back. Rose thought she had misheard, staring at me for a long time before realizing I was serious. Julian. Rose's face turned pale, and her voice became sharp. Do you have to humiliate me like this? Even if you're jealous, there should be a limit. Isn't this just a way for you to get my attention? How long are you going to make a scene? Santiago quickly went to pull Rose away. He looked soft and weak. Rose, don't be angry. It's all my fault. I didn't know you would be angry when I came back with you. Should I leave instead? Chapter 7. As soon as Santiago finished speaking, he tried to leave, but Rose grew anxious and grabbed his arm. Her eyes read. Santi, if I hadn't gone back to the rental house with you today, I wouldn't have known you were living in such poor conditions. It's so hot, and your room doesn't even have air conditioning. You're so kind. How can you suffer like this? You're not going anywhere. From now on, you'll live in the Law house. Anyway, the Law house has many rooms. One more won't matter. As soon as she said this, not only I, but even the butler and the maid were stunned. Was there really such a shameless person in the world? Rose gave me a look that said, I'll deal with you later. She pulled Santiago upstairs. Just as they passed by me and were about to step onto the stairs, my right hand finally lost control. I slapped Rose hard across the face. Do you really think this is your house? The loud slap echoed through the villa. Rose's face was turned to the side by the force of the slap. She covered her face, her eyes bloodshot as she looked at me. Julian, you hit me again. When is this going to end? You better apologize to me right now, or you'll never see me come back to your Law house. I frowned, pointing toward the villa's front door. My eyes darkened. Get the hell out, you idiot. Go as far away as you can. Butler, hurry up and drag them out. Change the gate password and fingerprints. From now on, these two scoundrels are never allowed to set foot in my Law house again. Yes, young master. The butler stood up straight, quickly ordering the staff to drag them out. Rose's frantic voice came through the door. Julian, stop this. You think playing hard to get will work on me? You better think carefully. If you don't let Santi and me move in today, I will never forgive you. The only response to her was 2 words. Get out. Rose stood at the entrance of the villa, hesitating for a long time, unwilling to leave. Her expression shifted from anger to astonishment. It gradually turned into confusion. The two of them loitered outside the villa for over an hour. In the end, they reluctantly left, grinding their teeth. Chapter 8. Late at night, I was in the study dealing with documents when the doorbell of the villa suddenly rang. I frowned, wondering if it was Rose again, haunting me. Immediately, the butler knocked on the door. Young master, I snorted. If it's Rose, throw her out. The butler hurriedly replied. No, it's Miss Moo, Bianca Moo. She seems to be drunk. I immediately remembered. Bianca, the childhood friend of the original character, Julian. Bianca had always been in love with the original Julian. The two of them had an engagement at one point, but Julian, that devoted fool, could only see Rose. Ignoring his family's opposition, he insisted on getting engaged to Rose. When Bianca found out, she fell seriously ill. She never appeared in front of Julian again. Later, the original character's parents died in a car accident, and the tortured Julian ended up taking his own life. In the end, it was Bianca who handled all the funeral arrangements. Bianca never married and visited the original character's grave every year to honor him. I looked at Bianca, who was lying on the couch, obviously drunk. She was a vision of beauty. Her skin was like snow, and her face was exquisitely delicate, especially her stunning figure, which put Rose to shame by a long shot. I couldn't understand how the original character could have been so blind. Why would he choose someone like Rose? I carried Bianca to the room and placed her on the bed. Just as I was about to leave, she grabbed my arm. I lost my balance and ended up on top of her. She held me tightly. Julian, is that you? You really broke up with Rose, didn't you? I dreamt about you again. You bastard. How could you do this to me? I hate you. I hate you so much. She cried while pressing her soft lips to mine. Her initiative, combined with her beauty, made it impossible for any man to resist, and I was no exception. Since this girl was still inexperienced, I worried she might not be able to handle it. After 2 times, I just held her and fell asleep. In the morning, when she woke up, she let out a terrified scream. What happened? Was I dreaming? She suddenly remembered the fragments of last night, how she had been so forward. Her face turned bright red. She quickly buried her head in the blankets. My voice came from nearby. What's wrong, miss? I was passive last night. You don't plan on backing out, do you? Bianca immediately panicked upon hearing this. She quickly poked her head out, looking at me with a pitiful expression. Julian, I'll definitely take responsibility for you. Seeing her frantic and worried look, I suddenly felt a pang of tenderness. I gently pinched her delicate nose. All right, Bianca, it was my fault in the past. From now on, I won't let you suffer anymore. Bianca's tears suddenly welled up. She held me tightly, not letting go. She cried and laughed foolishly at the same time. We spent some time reminiscing about our childhood memories before reluctantly getting up to have breakfast. Chapter 9. 3 days later, there was an auction. Before I crossed over, the original character had already received the invitation. He had originally planned to bid on the Heart of an Angel and proposed to Rose. On that day, I brought Bianca to the auction house. Not long after we sat down, I saw Rose walking in arm with Santiago. She was wearing a dazzling dress that was clearly a fake. Rose stared at me for a long time. A smile gradually crept onto her lips, as if everything was under her control. When it was time for the auction of the Heart of an Angel, the smugness in her eyes grew even stronger. She looked completely confident. After several rounds of bidding, I successfully won the Heart of an Angel pink diamond necklace for 180 million. After paying with my card, the Heart of an Angel was immediately handed to me. Rose walked over arrogantly. With the eyes of everyone in the room on us, she looked down at me with disdain. Julian, since you managed to win the Heart of an Angel for me, I'll give you another chance, as long as you apologize to me and Santi, and let him become the general manager of your company. I might reluctantly accept your gift. At these words, the entire auction hall erupted in surprise. Many people laughed mockingly. Some of those who knew the original character even threw me disdainful looks. How could the president of the prestigious law group be so controlled by a woman? What a useless fool. I ignored the mocking glances and instead looked at Rose with contempt. Oh, Miss Rose, I think you might be misunderstanding. I have no idea how you, wearing a fake, managed to get in here without even verifying your funds. Did you forget? You still owe me 6.5 million. Someone like you, a gold digger, is qualified to wear the Heart of an Angel. Chapter 10. The entire room immediately burst into laughter. Rose's face turned pale in an instant. She tightly clutched the hem of her dress, her nails digging into her skin. Julian, you. Santiago rushed over to stand in front of Rose, angrily questioning me. Julian, why don't you give the Heart of an Angel to Rose? I looked at him mockingly. If you can come up with 180 million, I'll transfer the Heart of an Angel to you. You can give it to her. Santiago's face turned bright red. He couldn't utter a word for a long time. Under their glaring gazes, I placed the Heart of an Angel around Bianca's smooth, jade-like neck. Bianca shyly leaned against me. Rose was furious. She grabbed Santiago and hurriedly fled. She threw a bitter remark over her shoulder. Julian, don't think that bringing your childhood sweetheart to play this little game will get to me. I'm telling you, even if you kneel and beg me, I'll never look back. I shouted back. 6.5 million. When will you pay me back? Rose didn't dare stay any longer and fled in a panic. Chapter 11. In the following days, I heard that Rose was trying to start a business and was seeking investors everywhere. Since the auction, everyone knew that I had completely severed ties with Rose. When she was the vice president of Law Group, all those bosses who had been flattering her now avoided her like the plague. Out of necessity, she had to look for work to make ends meet. However, no company was willing to hire her, as they feared offending Law Group. To make matters worse, the court ruled that she still had to pay me 6.5 million. One evening, I was entertaining clients at a high-end restaurant. To my surprise, the one serving us in our private room was Rose. She had once been somewhat charming, but now her face was worn and haggard. Her eyes were dull and lacked the arrogant sparkle she once had. When she saw me, she froze. Her face quickly turned red, and she hurriedly ran out. Not long after, another waiter came in to replace her. I didn't pay much attention. I had a habit of walking in the morning, and the next day, when I opened the door, I saw Rose standing outside the villa, her face marked with dark circles. I slowly walked over to her. She looked deflated. Julian, you've won. You know I work at that restaurant, and you brought people here to humiliate me. Is it really that amusing to you? I admit that you're playing hard to get really worked. I also admit that I do have feelings for you. Don't worry, I haven't let Santiago touch me. I'm still clean. You don't have to pretend anymore to provoke me. She reached out her hand as if offering a charity. Looking helpless. Give me the heart of an angel, and I'll agree to marry you. I looked at her in shock. I had already scolded her, slapped her, and even sued her in court. And yet, Rose still believed that I was deeply in love with her. Was everything I did just a means to get her attention? Suddenly, I understood. This was a typical female-centric narrative, where nothing made sense. Looks like I'd have to pull out the big guns. I stared into her eyes, my expression unusually serious. Rose, I no longer love you. Go as far away as possible. Don't you dare come near me again. Understand? Chapter 12. Sure enough, Rose trembled immediately. She was completely broken. It's impossible. How can you not love me? You clearly love me so much. You're lying to me, aren't you? You're just jealous, right? When she saw that I didn't speak, she immediately panicked. Julian, I was wrong. I've always loved you. I was just too insecure. I didn't believe that someone as outstanding as you could really belong to me. That's why I acted out, over and over, making you prove your love to me. Julian, you've successfully gotten my attention. From now on, I'll pay more attention to your feelings. Let's go back to how things were. Okay. Her tone was pleading. Her eyes filled with a sense of brokenness. She stared at me unblinkingly, trying to find any trace of love in my eyes. Unfortunately, all she saw in my eyes was coldness and disgust. Rose, stop lying to yourself. I really don't love you anymore. Now, get the hell out. With my second major move, I watched her collapse to the ground. Rose was scared. She had been living terribly during this time. Her standard of living and her status had fallen to rock bottom. The people who once fawned over her now looked at her with contempt. In order to make ends meet, she had to take up the very job as a waitress that she once looked down upon. Even Santiago had been distant with her lately. She muttered to herself, "It's impossible. You can't not love me. Stop pretending. You must be lying to me." Just then, Bianca walked out of the villa wearing one of my shirts. The collar of the shirt was wide open, revealing a large patch of snow-white skin. The kiss marks on her neck were clearly visible. Rose froze, her mouth agape. Not reacting at all, Bianca pressed herself close to me, snuggling into my arms. "Hubby, why is Miss Rose here again?" "Hubby, you didn't kiss me this morning. I want a kiss." When Rose heard Bianca's playful tone, her face turned to one of despair. She slowly slid down the iron gate, her hand losing strength. I affectionately patted Bianca's little head and leaned down to kiss her. Rose couldn't stand it anymore. She stumbled and ran away in a panic. Chapter 13. 3 months later, I was in my office handling official business. Suddenly, I received a bank notification that 6.5 million had been deposited into my account. Right after, I received a message from Rose. "Julian, I've paid back what I owe you." My heart skipped a beat. I immediately called my assistant. "Go investigate everything Rose has been up to recently. Compile the information and send it to me right away." The assistant agreed and hurried off to handle it. Logically speaking, Rose should have been at her wit's end. How could she possibly raise over 6 million in such a short amount of time? Something was off. This was definitely not normal. Following the typical plot of female-centric stories, when the male and female leads find themselves cornered, they usually go crazy. I had even hired a few more bodyguards to provide close protection. Soon, my assistant came back with all the information. It turned out that Rose was still determined to start her own business. She had been living in the Law family's house since high school. Whether in high school or college, she was always picked up by luxury cars. So, her classmates all assumed she was from a wealthy family. Many of her relatives and friends didn't know that I had severed the engagement with Rose and removed her from her position as vice president of Law Group. She used these connections and resources to borrow money from all over. She managed to raise over 45 million. Even now, she's still using the name of Law Group to make money. I didn't want to take the blame for her. Moreover, her startup in software development had already started operating. It was said that she had hired 2 tech experts. My assistant had checked out these 2 so-called tech geniuses. They were nothing more than small-time players. They only knew the basics and had no real skills. At this rate, with her reckless spending, the company would go bankrupt sooner or later. Assistant, use the official website to release an urgent announcement. State that Rose and I ended our engagement over a month ago, and I dismissed her from her position as vice president of Law Group. Also, make it clear that Rose's personal actions have nothing to do with Law Group. Understood. President Law. Less than 3 days after the announcement went out, my assistant rushed in, excited. "President Law, Rose is finished." As soon as the announcement went out, many people accused Rose of fraud and said they were going to sue her. The 2 tech guys got the news and freaked out. They're planning to flee. All the remaining money Rose had was taken by Santiago. Rose is now running all over trying to find him. Heh, this was indeed good news. Chapter 14. The next day, just as I got home from work, I was startled when Rose suddenly sprang out from the roadside. I was taken by surprise, but fortunately, the bodyguards were quick to react and immediately restrained her. At that moment, Rose looked particularly worn out. Her hair was a mess, her eye sockets sunken, and she looked like she had aged several years in an instant. She looked at me with eyes full of pleading. Julian, I was wrong. Please help me. I really have nowhere to turn. All my money was taken by that bastard, Santiago. She broke down, tears falling steadily from her eyes. I was wrong. Julian, I can't believe I did this to you for that bastard. I really have no way out. They want me to pay back the money, and they're going to sue me for fraud. The police have already opened a case. Please, help me. Lend me 45 million. I know you still love me, don't you? You won't just ignore me. If you lend me the money, I'll do anything. I'll never do anything to hurt you again. Seeing that I still wasn't saying anything, her emotions finally collapsed, and she burst into loud sobs. Julian, I can be your mistress. I'll spend my life making it up to you. I really don't want to go to jail. I gently slapped her face. Rose, can't you see it yet? I don't love you anymore. Lend you 45 million. Do you think you deserve that? Her expression suddenly froze, her eyes full of despair. Rose, didn't you bring all of this on yourself? Even if I were rich, I wouldn't give you a single penny. Rose completely broke down. She stared at me, her eyes bloodshot, her face twisted with rage. Julian, if it weren't for that damn announcement you made, how could they sue me? You bastard, you'll never have a good end. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Throw her out. If we see her again, call the police. The bodyguards worked together to throw the cursing Rose out into the open space outside. Julian, I'll haunt you even as a ghost. One of the bodyguards tossed a piece of paper at her. Rose, here's Santiago's current address. President Law says that whatever feelings you two had are completely over now. Rose trembled as she picked up the paper from the ground. Her eyes were full of madness. I stood on the second floor of the villa, my expression clouded. The dark clouds in the sky covered the moon, and the light suddenly dimmed. Rose disappeared completely into the darkness. Chapter 15. 3 days later, my assistant knocked on the door. President Law, Santiago is dead. He was stabbed over 10 times by Rose. She didn't escape and was arrested on the spot by the police. The police just called, and Rose has confessed to everything without hiding anything. She wants to see you one last time. I nodded, thinking for a moment before deciding to go. In the meeting room, I saw her through the glass. As I sat down, Rose was already sitting across from me, wearing a yellow prison uniform. Her hair had been cut short. She looked like a hollow shell, her eyes vacant. She was completely different from the hysterical, cursing woman from 3 days ago. 2 prison guards stood behind her, one on each side. She stared at me for a long time. It wasn't until half the meeting time had passed that she finally spoke in a hoarse voice. Julian, I've thought a lot these past few days. I know you once loved me so much that no matter what I did, you would forgive me. So I became arrogant. I trampled on your love for me without a second thought. I took all your kindness for granted. I know. The outcome I face now is all my own doing. She paused for a moment, then slowly lifted her head. Do you know? I had a very long dream. It was so long, it felt like an entire lifetime. In the dream, we got married. You gave me everything, your shares in the company, all your wealth. I got everything, but I wasn't a good woman. My sensitive pride made me feel that your kindness, your support from the Law family, was an open humiliation. I was deceived by Santiago's sweet words. I started to take revenge on you, to take revenge on the Law family. In the dream, I was pregnant. You didn't know that the child wasn't yours, but you were as happy as a child. But in my eyes, you were a fool. You immediately told your parents abroad the good news. But on the very first day they returned, they had a serious car accident. They died on the spot. In the dream, this car accident was planned by me and Santiago. That wasn't enough. I openly let Santiago live in our house. As soon as we had a disagreement, we would either hit or scold you. Locking you in the basement became routine. Eventually, you couldn't take it anymore and chose to commit suicide. But me and Santiago said, this was what you deserved. When I woke up from the dream, I thought for a long time, and I realized, if you had really married me, I would most likely have done these things. Luckily, you woke up. Now that I think about it, sometimes power and money really blind a person's eyes. You know, that day, in front of your door, I saw you holding Bianca in your arms. With that loving look in your eyes, I truly envied it. I'm sorry for letting you meet such a malicious woman like me. I wish you well. Julian, I sincerely hope you'll be happy from now on. Goodbye, Julian. After saying the last words, her usually calm face suddenly broke into a smile. It was a bitter smile. A smile full of relief. A year later, Rose was sentenced to death. Meanwhile, I was at the hospital with Bianca, having a checkup. She was nestled in my arms, looking up at me with a playful expression. "Hubby, the doctor says it's twins. Do you want a son or a daughter?" I lovingly scratched her nose. Only elementary school kids ask that kind of question. "I'll take both a son and a daughter." "What if they're both sons or both daughters?" "Then we'll just have more." "Hubby, I'm just worried you'll get tired." "Then how about I lie down and you do the hard work, my dear? You're such a tease."